Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another brand new episode of Dunswell Zoo, one that may be slightly redundant. So I started this habitat, God, how long ago was it now? 2 weeks ago? And I've been sort of working on it, just intermittently, every now and then. And today, of all days, they announced the tropical pack, which features the three-toed sloth, the brown-throated three-toed sloth, as a walk-through exhibit animal. So this habitat will probably be getting torn down very soon, but I'd already recorded the speed build, so I didn't want to waste all that work and footage, so here you have it. So the top of the habitat is made of green bamboo. It does end up staying as green bamboo, and the bottom is just made of the standard plaster. And it just stays as the standard plaster. So it's also a space for some new facilities as well. It's not just a sloth habitat. This is the area for new facilities. You can see I'm just checking out the sizing of the habitat and putting in doors and things like that. And we go ahead here and start sizing up how I'm going to do the floor, and I decide to do a sloped floor for this. So it goes up in stages, a bit like a terrace, but it's actually sloped with the plaster pieces and the wood chip pieces from the Frontier Pack, made by Nicholas Lion Rider. So I wanted sloths in the zoo because I like them, and they are an iconic South American species, you know, so their inclusion was justified. But they are the most widespread and most common of all the three-toed sloths. It's found all the way from Honduras in the north, all the way to eastern Peru. And then this includes Venezuela, Ecuador, Bolivia, Brazil, the Panama, Costa Rica. So it's very widespread. It's found in lots of different environments, so things like humid forests, dry forests, evergreen forests. It's generally found in your sort of standard elevations, although some have been found in mountainous forests as well. But that's not what we're dealing with here. We're not having infants, with them being least concern. The original plan was to have a male and 3 females, none of them breeding, of course. But now that we've had the announcement of the tropical pack with the walkthrough exhibit for the sloths, I figured there was no point in pursuing any additional sloths, simply because we're probably going to have to tear this down, which is fine because I'm actually not a massive fan of this habitat. So you can see here I'm putting the wood chip down, nice sloped floor. And the reason for this was just because I didn't want the sloths to be in a box in their indoor habitat. Because looking at sloth habitats in zoos, most of them tend to be indoors, most of them tend to be sort of square or rectangular and pretty boring. I didn't want that, but I also wanted to keep it sort of realistic. So it is indoors, it is rectangular, but it's a sloped floor, and it just, I don't know how to describe it really. The pieces are there, all the pieces of the puzzle are there. It just doesn't really come together how I wanted it to come together. And I don't know if that's just because of the way Planet Zoo works, because, you know, we don't have sloths yet. It might be that the sloth mod gets updated, which if it does, that's great, because then we can keep this habitat and have a sloth on a sloth rig and not a koala rig, which is what it works on at the moment. You can see that I'm just struggling with the window framing. I wanted quite large viewing windows. Unfortunately, I I mean, I could use glass barriers. I might go back and do that actually, and try glass barriers. I was thinking I wouldn't be able to do it because of the terrain. It just looked weird. But I think if I raised the barrier high enough, it wouldn't make that much of a difference. Because you can see here, the biggest one-way glass piece isn't big enough. And then you'd see the join, it just looks stupid. Same with the normal glass panels. So I have to go for this like ridiculously massive that sort of panel. But it's real cloudy, and I'm not a massive fan of the viewing opportunities that it gives. So yeah, keep that one in mind. So here I'm just putting some simple mesh pieces down for a placeholder for a separation area for the sloths, so that if any of them need to come offshore for treatment or quarantine, integration of a new sloth, stuff like that, they can use that area. You see here I'm just checking the planting, and you will see me catastrophically fail here to find plants what fit this space. I do find some eventually, but they're not all authentic to the sloth's natural habitat range. But I can overlook that because we're quite limited again. So here's putting the custom segregation area in for the sloths. And for this one I drew a lot of experience. No, I didn't. I drew a lot of inspiration from what offshore areas for sloths look like. So I looked at Hamilton and San Diego, I think was another one I looked at, and a couple of other places, and their offshore sort of area for sloths is very basic. It tends to just be a normal floor with a wooden box and some climbing enrichment, and that's all you need. So that's pretty much all I do. They can use it, even though they're on the koala rig, they can use it, they just don't climb upside down, which is of course a telltale for sloths. Sloths sleep for up to, I think, 18 to 20 hours a day is the maximum. They're usually active either during the day or during the night. It's very rarely that it's both. They spend the majority of their lives in the trees and climbing. They do come to the ground and they can swim, but they only come to the ground sort of once a week to poo, which I do mention in the live section a little bit later on, because I was going to put a sign in saying like this is a sloth poo zone, but again, because this habitat might not be staying, I didn't see the need in doing anything further in terms of really detailed stuff. We'll see what happens though with mods and how well they walk through exhibit sloth sort of functions. What else do I know about sloths? They don't tend to travel particularly far, unsurprisingly, given their rather slow speed. They get most of the fluids from the things that they eat, which tends to be leaves, although they have rather been seen eating flowers and fruits on trees and plants. And brown-throated sloths in particular have also been documented drinking directly from water sources like ponds and rivers and lakes and tributaries and streams and so on. Yeah, they're just sloths really, that's all there is to say. They're interesting, they look pretty cool, and they live an interesting life, but how well they work in Planet Zoo is a different matter. I think that's probably part of the reason why they haven't been included officially so far, up until this tropical pack that's coming out. Is simply because there's just not the mechanisms in the game for that sort of lifestyle. So climbing upside down isn't in the game. Moving very slow isn't really in the game. I think, you know, the tortoises, they move pretty slow. Everything else sort of has an average and a running speed. Sloths actually provide a habitat for a species of moth that lives in its fur and lays eggs. Obviously, we're not going to get that in Planet Zoo. That's far too advanced. But we can certainly see what we get in the walkthrough sloth habitat exhibit, rather, not habitat. That's all I know about sloths, really. I don't know an awful lot. They're cool to look at, and they're pretty slow. And that's a sloth. But they're iconic, and that's why we've got them here in Dunswell Zoo. As a mod at the moment, and then either as a walkthrough, or if the mod gets updated to use a sloth rig from the walkthrough habitat, then we'd definitely have the sloths in a habitat very much like this, but with some newer features, with some of the new pieces and things like that. So I've spent about, I think it's about 3 hours in total, building custom climbing enrichment using ropes and logs. And this one in particular, I end up getting rid of because I don't like it. I end up using a blueprint. I cannot for the life of me pronounce the name of the blueprint. It's not English, and I can't remember the name of the blueprint either. I will put it in the description if I remember. I know I said that in the live section, which you haven't seen yet, but I've already recorded the live section. Where are we? Oh, we've got about 10 minutes left. That's all right. So here we go. I'm putting the custom, the blueprint climbing enrichment in for the sloths, and they can use this, and it does look really cool and really natural. Nothing else to say other than that, not until we got onto the planting anyway. I just sort of extend this climbing structure to take it to those doors at the far end, and also to the sort of food trough thing. This is actually part of the custom climbing enrichment that I really enjoyed doing, which was this little bit at the end here. The rope and the thin logs and stuff like that. I really enjoyed doing that. But no, this isn't my favourite habitat, and I don't think it's the best one I've built, but I needed something to go in this space, and I wanted sloths in the zoo. But they're quite difficult animals to look after in terms of their habitat and, you know, temperature and how quickly they move and stuff like that. So a lot of them do have indoor habitats, but they don't require a lot of space. And then Planet Zoo's offerings for small plants and sort of interesting climbing enrichment is a bit limited. So yeah, this was annoying. That's not joined up to that that piece of branch, and I was trying to get it to join up, and I could not for the life of me get it to do it, so I just give up and put another branch in. And then I start work on the offshore area. So you'll notice here that I've put the struts in at the front, but I do move that structure, and the struts sort of need to go. And I forget to put the struts back in. And I notice it in the live section as well, that I forget to put the struts back in at the front. So I'm just creating a secondary zone now, just in case you know, we need to give the sloths somewhere to escape the public's view. So I'm separating this off-show area into a indoor, when it's all indoor, but an off-show connected area and an off-show unconnected area. So one can be used for like quarantining and illness and integration, and the other one can just be left open for the sloths to go into as they so wish, which is what's happening there. I would like to change the colour of the metal beams. I don't think that blue's a very good colour, but I couldn't be bothered to select all the pieces to do it. And then obviously finding out about the tropical pack and that we're getting sloths in that, I didn't feel the need to continue to do any more work on this habitat than what I'd already done. But yeah, the tropical pack looks really good. The Fusa, looking forward to seeing that. The Largibbon, looking forward to seeing that. Red River Hog, they're common zoo animals. I get why they're included, being requested. Not really for me. I prefer sort of Visayan warty pigs and Babirussas. Babirussas we have in the game already. What else we getting? The Asian water monitor, also not really for me. I'm not really bothered about the Asian water monitor, to be fair. And that's about it. We're only getting 5 this time. The building pieces look magnificent though. Loads of plants, loads of building pieces, lots of theming. It'll becoming really useful for Dunswell Zoo. So here, finally putting the planting in. Finally found some plants that all fit. They're from all over the world. You've got European, African, Asian, South American, planting, Australian. Some of them are from the prop pack, the plant pack, and the frontier pack. So then I go ahead and put the rest of the roof in at this point, because I need to see what's going to poke through or not. So it's 2 metre thatch at either side, and then glass in the middle, which has been cut out for some reason. And now we're moving on to the custom outdoor climbing enrichment, which I actually really enjoyed building, and I think I'm going to use similar sort of structures at some point in the future when dealing with climbing animals, because I really like how this looks, and I'm actually really proud of myself for doing it. It took a lot of time and a lot of trial and error, but that was the whole point of this series. It was to perfect my building style. We do need some more rope pieces in the game, though, I will say that much. There aren't enough rope pieces. Rope and mesh, I think we need more pieces. Like mesh corners would be really useful. Mesh triangles, mesh hexagons, also really useful. And obviously different lengths of rope, different curvatures of rope, different thicknesses of rope would also be quite useful as well. So I've put this sort of stand in the middle. Realistically, the sloths wouldn't use that. They would just sort of stay on the ropes or on the branches and logs and stuff. They wouldn't go onto that platform, but because they're based on the koalas, I put it there anyway. Again, this was before Tropical Pack, so you have to forgive the re-explaining of everything and the retrofitting. Just wanted to make the ground look like really overgrown, like no one ever goes in there. It's just the sloths that use it. So yeah, we're near the end now, so I will be quiet and let you enjoy what's left, and I will see you all in the live section. Well, hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the live section of the Brown-Throated Three-Toed Sloth habitat. The speed build was tricky. I'm sure you've already seen that in the footage. Don't know what I've said because I've not done the voiceover, but I know roughly what I'm going to say because the tropical pack was announced today, which includes the Brown-Throated Three-Toed Sloth as a walkthrough exhibit animal, not a habitat animal. Not sure whether that's going to work better or not. Personally, I'd have preferred it to be a habitat animal, but we shall see how things turn out. So we begin with the addition of 2 new facilities. The staff room, and initially it was a veterinary surgery, but there is one nearby. So I've made it into another quarantine. And then, of course, we have access to the sloth habitat. So we've got these indoor areas here, where they have their little sleeping boxes, sleeping platforms. And keepers can access this and shut it off as need be. Kept it blue, just because I couldn't be bothered to select all the pieces and recolour them. And then we have the indoor of the habitat. So it uses a blueprint for most of this climbing structure. If I always forget the leg supports on one of these things. If I remember, I will put the link for this climbing frame thing in the description. It's not in English. I can't tell you what it's called, and I can't tell you who it's by, so I'll just find the link if I remember. And then the habitat, it's very well planted, functions like a greenhouse essentially, and there's lots of different planting in here, most of it not suitable for the sloths, but was a bit limited for small plants, so they've got what they've got. This area here, where we are now, I was going to put a sign in here and say, like, this is where I poop, because sloths come down once a week to poo. That's how often they poo, once a week. And they have a pooing spot, and they come down and poo. And that's what I was going to put here. But obviously, because we've now got the sloth as a walk-through exhibit animal, we're not going to need that. We've got the sloths here. Of course, they are based on the koala. So they do walk a little funky. We've got 3 females. Here we go. They are least concern, so we don't need a breeding pair, really. But we can see them use this, and, you know, they would use it upside down, but because they're on the koala rig, koalas don't climb upside down. So the exhibit walk-through box is smaller than this, so it might mean we have to rip this habitat down. Which I'm not too bothered about, because I don't mind the inside, really. It's not too bad. And this outside area, which we're about to look at now, I quite like this outdoor area, actually. I think it turned out quite nice. I just don't like the habitat in general. I think the viewing opportunities are a bit poor, and alright, we're using the climbing structures. Yeah, the viewing opportunities are very poor. Oh god, I'm stuck. There we go. And just the habitat doesn't excite me like the other ones sort of do. You know, you look into this one, the glass is cloudy, and you're like, what am I looking for? Oh yeah, the sloths. I don't think I showed it in the speed build though. I did an additional area up here, which I quite like how that's turned out. It's making use of some additional space. So yeah, I don't like the habitat. It's cool to see stuff like this, but of course sloths would actually be upside down and slower. But yeah, we need some bigger glass pieces that aren't sort of cloudy. And I kept it green, the bamboo, because I thought, you know, it looks alright. And it does, to be fair. It stands out a bit, but when it's on the inside, it similarly blends in. That's what I wanted. But I don't know, I look at the habitat and I'm like, meh. And because of the habitat, the way it's designed, I had to put a path covering in, because the path actually dips here. It dips down. So I don't want that. So we've put this path covering in to sort of make it look like it's a different piece of path. That it's ever so slightly raised up. Just to view the sloths a little bit better. So my initial plan was to have 3 females and a male, non-breeding, all retired from the breeding program. I've only got the 3 females because obviously there's no point putting too much effort into it, because potentially I'm going to have to rip all this down again. We'll see what it looks like, the walk-through sloth. In terms of I have no doubt the animal's going to look amazing, but in terms of the exhibit itself, we'll see what it looks like. Possibly Leaf might rip that model and the rig and put it as a habitat animal. I know we have got some exhibit animals what have been modded into habitat animals, so perhaps that's something what can be done. But we shall see. But because I'm not a fan of this habitat in particular, anyway, I'm not too bothered if I'm gonna have to rip it down. Just one of those things, isn't it? But this is the outdoor viewing. Really like how this looks, actually. I might use this for something else. This custom climbing structure, and I mean, that looks a bit messy over there, but I can live with that. The rest of it looks alright. So yeah, there we have it. There's our Brown-Throated Three-Toed Sloth habitat. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. Cinematics will be following shortly. There may be a small break in videos. I've now finished my course, so I do have a little bit more free time on my hands for the time being. But obviously with the new pack and the new update, it might affect some of the mods, so we might not be able to jump straight back in. And similarly, I need to sell some stuff on my end, eBay, obviously. So yeah, there might be a small break in videos, but I'm not 100% sure. It really just depends on the update 13 and the tropical pack, which looks amazing, by the way. The tropical pack. There will be a video coming out. Well, it should have already come out technically by the time this comes out. There will have been a video on the tropical pack and my thoughts and what that means for Dunswell Zoo, as well as update 13 as well, which is an equally good update. But yeah, thank you for watching. Stick around, cinematics are on the way. Not that you're likely to see much. In fact, you know what? We'll scrap the cinematics for this episode. This is where the episode's ending. Thank you very much for watching. Please remember to hit that like button if you have indeed liked the video. Subscribe if you want to support me, support the channel. I want to see more content like Dunswell Zoo. And yeah, just until then, stay safe, stay kind, and I shall see you all in the next episode. I mean, that's just weird, that really, isn't it? A sloth running on all fours. So until the next time, stay safe, stay kind, and I shall see you all in that next video. Take care, my friends, and bye-bye for now.